Table of contents. Part 1. Why these three modes close out the series. Part 2. Negotiated procurement, direct retail purchase of petroleum, electronic charging devices, and online subscriptions. Part 3. Repeat order. Part 4. Direct sales. Part 5. Advantages and disadvantages. Part 6. Do's and don'ts. Part 7. Misconceptions. Part 8. Warnings. Part 9. Tips for field verification. Part 10. Audit observations. Part 11. Frequently asked questions. Part 12. Quick reference summary. And Part 13. This series, complete. Next slide. Part 1. Why these three modes close out the series. Coming up in this part, why these three modes close out the series. Next slide. Why these three modes close out the series. Direct retail purchase is technically the last of the 13 negotiated procurement types under Section 35M. Repeat order and direct sales are not negotiated procurement at all, they are their own distinct modes under Section 26G and Section 26J, respectively. All three are grouped in this final file because each is genuinely brief in its own legal text. Each is explicitly treated by GPPB as running under its own distinct arrangement rather than a shared framework, and together they complete the full account of Section 26's 11 modes of procurement across this 5-file series. Next slide. Part 2. Negotiated procurement. Direct retail purchase of petroleum, electronic charging devices, and online subscriptions. Coming up in this part, its legal basis, 3 distinct categories, 1 shared logic, a warning for audit review, and the end-user delegation structure. Next slide. Legal basis. Republic Act No. 12009, Section 35, M. Direct retail purchase of petroleum fuel, oil and lubricant, POL, products, electronic charging devices, and online subscriptions. Direct retail purchase of POL products, electronic charging devices, and online subscriptions not available in the PSDBM may be made by end users delegated to procure the same from identified direct suppliers or service providers, where goods and services are required by a procuring entity for the efficient discharge of its principal functions or day-to-day operations. Coming up shortly is a related warning that builds directly on this provision. Subcategory 3 explicitly carves out Internet and cloud computing services from the off-the-shelf software category. Procurement of those specific services falls outside this mode even though they might otherwise seem to fit the general online subscription concept. Next slide. 3 distinct categories, 1 shared logic. Petroleum, oil, and lubricant, POL, products, the classic example, an end-user fueling a government vehicle at a retail station rather than running a formal procurement each time. Electronic charging devices, a category that reflects how routine, low-friction technology purchasing has become part of day-to-day office operations. Next slide. 3 distinct categories, 1 shared logic, continued. Online subscriptions, the most textually detailed of the 3, with 4 named subcategories: software, applications, electronic publications, references, journals, off-the-shelf software, excluding Internet, cloud computing services specifically, and web-based services. A related warning for audit review follows shortly. Next slide. Warning: Internet and cloud computing services are expressly excluded. Subcategory 3 explicitly carves out Internet and cloud computing services from the off-the-shelf software category. Procurement of those specific services falls outside this mode even though they might otherwise seem to fit the general online subscription concept. Verify this specific point against the citation shown on this slide before relying on it. Next slide. The end-user delegation structure. This mode is built around delegation to END users specifically, individuals or units directly consuming the good or service, rather than routing every fuel purchase or software subscription through a centralized procurement office. The delegation itself, and the identification of direct suppliers, service providers, are matters for the procuring entity's own internal arrangement, since Section 35M does not prescribe a specific delegation procedure beyond establishing that delegation is permitted. Next slide. Part 3. Repeat order. Coming up in this part, its legal basis, a quick reference summary, 3 cumulative conditions, and a warning for audit review. Next slide. Legal basis. Republic Act No. 12009, Section 33. Repeat order. A mode of procurement wherein the procuring entity may procure goods from the previous winning bidder whenever there arises a need to replenish the goods procured under a contract previously awarded through bidding. Coming up shortly is a related warning that builds directly on this provision. Section 33(c) caps the repeat order at 25% of the quantity of each item in the original contract. A multi-item contract cannot exceed 25% on one heavily needed item by drawing down unused headroom from a different, less needed item in the same original contract. Next slide. Repeat order. A price, unit price equal to or lower than the original contract. B. Timing. Within 6 months of the original contract's notice to proceed, absent special IRR-defined circumstances. C. Quantity. Not exceeding 25% of the original contract's quantity, per item. Each entry in this table traces back to a specific provision, so confirm the exact wording before relying on it. Next slide. 3 cumulative conditions. A repeat order also remains subject to the post-qualification process prescribed in the original bidding documents. The previous winning bidder is not automatically re-qualified simply by virtue of having won the first time. A related warning for audit review follows shortly. Next slide. Warning. The 25% ceiling applies per item, not to the contract as a whole. Section 33(c) caps the repeat order at 25% of the quantity of each item in the original contract. A multi-item contract cannot exceed 25% on one heavily needed item by drawing down unused headroom from a different, less needed item in the same original contract. This relates to Section 33(c). Check this point directly against the citation shown here when you review a transaction of this kind. Next slide. Part 4. Direct sales. Coming up in this part, its legal basis, 5 cumulative conditions, and the documentation handoff. Next slide. Legal basis. Republic Act No. 12,009, Section 36. Direct sales. A mode of procurement of non-CSEs where a procuring entity directly purchases from a supplier that has satisfactorily delivered non-CSEs to another government agency under a completed contract. Coming up shortly is a related note that builds directly on this provision. Direct sales and repeat order are easy to confuse but structurally different. Repeat order lets the same procuring entity go back to its own previous winning bidder to replenish quantities under its own original contract. Next slide. 5 cumulative conditions. The original agency's contract with the supplier resulted from competitive bidding. The original agency inspected, accepted, and certified satisfactory supplier performance. The new procuring entity's own procurement is initiated only once, within 6 months of the original agency's acceptance. The new contract stays within the original contract's amount, at the same or lower unit price. The supplier agrees to the new PE's terms and remains legally, technically, and financially capable. Next slide. Note. Direct sales and repeat order are easy to confuse but structurally different. Repeat order lets the same procuring entity go back to its own previous winning bidder to replenish quantities under its own original contract. Direct sales lets a different procuring entity piggyback on another agency's already completed, successfully performed contract with that supplier. The two modes solve related but distinct problems. This is a scope clarification worth keeping in view as you apply the rest of this section. Next slide. Legal basis. Republic Act No. 12,009, Section 36, closing paragraph. This is the exact wording to cite in your working papers or audit observation memorandum, since the explanation just before it covers what the provision means in practice. Next slide. The documentation handoff. This is a distinct, express obligation on the original agency to share its procurement records with the new procuring entity. Without this handoff, the new P cannot properly verify conditions A through D, which all depend on facts about the original contract. Next slide. Part 5. Advantages and disadvantages. Coming up in this part, advantages and disadvantages and risks. Next slide. Advantages. Direct retail purchase matches the effort spent on a purchase to its genuinely routine, day-to-day nature. No one expects a formal procurement cycle for a tank of fuel. Repeat order avoids rerunning a full competitive bidding cycle for a genuinely proven, already vetted supplier relationship, within tight guardrails. Direct sales lets government leverage another agency's already completed due diligence and competitive bidding, rather than duplicating that entire process for a substantively similar need. Next slide. Disadvantages and risks. Direct retail purchases end-user delegation model, if not tightly controlled internally, can produce inconsistent supplier selection and pricing practices across different end users within the same procuring entity. Repeat orders price and quantity guardrails only work if they're actually checked against the original contract each time, a procuring entity relying on memory or informal tracking risks exceeding the 25% per item ceiling without realizing it. Next slide. Disadvantages and risks, continued. Direct sales depends entirely on the original agency's cooperation in providing documentation. A new procuring entity has no independent means of verifying the original contract's terms without that handoff. Next slide. Part 6. Do's and don'ts. Coming up in this part, do's and don'ts. Next slide. Do's and don'ts. Do. Confirm an online subscription purchase actually falls within one of the 4 named subcategories under Section 35(m). Check the 25% ceiling per item, not against the original contract's total value, for every repeat order. Request the complete documentation handoff from the original agency before proceeding with direct sales. Confirm the supplier's continuing legal, technical, and financial capacity independently for direct sales, rather than assuming it carries over automatically from the original contract. Don't. Next slide. Do's and don'ts, continued. Do not procure internet or cloud computing services under the online subscription category. These are expressly excluded. Do not initiate more than one direct sales procurement for the same non-CSEs within the 6-month window. Do not exceed the original contract's per unit price under either repeat order or direct sales. Do not skip post-qualification for a repeat order on the assumption the supplier already proved itself the first time. Next slide. Part 7. Misconceptions. Coming up in this part, a common misconception. Next slide. Misconception. That is incorrect. Repeat order lets a P return to its own previous winning bidder under its own original contract. Direct sales lets a P piggyback on a different agency's already completed contract with that supplier, structurally distinct mechanisms. This distinction is stated directly in the citations for this part, so rely on the exact text rather than the common assumption. Next slide. Misconception. That is incorrect. Section 33(c) applies the 25% ceiling to each item individually, not to the contract's aggregate quantity. This distinction is stated directly in the citations for this part, so rely on the exact text rather than the common assumption. Next slide. Misconception. That is incorrect. Section 35(m) names 4 specific subcategories and expressly excludes Internet and cloud computing services from the off-the-shelf software category. It is not an open-ended online purchasing authority. This distinction is stated directly in the citations for this part, so rely on the exact text rather than the common assumption. Next slide. Misconception. That is incorrect. Section 36(c) limits initiation to once within 6 months of the original agency's acceptance. A recurring need calls for a different procurement approach, not repeated invocations of direct sales. This distinction is stated directly in the citations for this part, so rely on the exact text rather than the common assumption. Next slide. Part 8. Warnings. Coming up in this part, a warning for audit review. Next slide. Warning. Repeat order timing drift. Absent a specific IRR-defined special circumstance, availing of a repeat order beyond 6 months from the original contract's notice to proceed falls outside Section 33(b)'s express window. This relates to Section 33(b). Match the transaction against this exact wording before drawing a conclusion. Next slide. Warning. Missing original agency documentation for direct sales. Proceeding with direct sales without the original agency's procurement documents on file leaves conditions A through D of Section 36 unverifiable, not merely underdocumented. This relates to Section 36. Verify this specific point against the citation shown on this slide before relying on it. Next slide. Warning. Internet, cloud services mislabeled as off-the-shelf software. Procuring what is actually an internet or cloud computing service under the direct retail purchase online subscription category. by labeling it as off-the-shelf software, contradicts the express textual exclusion in Section 35(m)(3). This relates to Section 35(m). Check this point directly against the citation shown here when you review a transaction of this kind. Next slide. Part 9. Tips for field verification. Coming up in this part, an audit tip. Next slide. Audit tip. Track repeat orders against the original bill of quantities. Keep a running tally of repeat order quantities against each specific item's original contract quantity, rather than checking the ceiling only at the time of each new repeat order request. Keep this point on hand as a reference check for this mode of procurement. Next slide. Audit tip. Request the full document set for direct sales up front. Ask for the original agency's award documents, inspection, acceptance report, and satisfactory performance certification together, rather than piecemeal, since all are needed to verify the same set of conditions. This is stated directly in the citation above, so verify it against the source text rather than from memory. Next slide. Audit tip. Classify online subscriptions carefully. When reviewing a direct retail purchase online subscription transaction, identify which of the 4 Section 35(m) subcategories it falls under specifically, and double-check it is not actually an excluded internet or cloud computing service. This relates to Section 35(m). Keep this point on hand as a reference check for this mode of procurement. Next slide. Part 10. Audit observations. Coming up in this part, audit observations. Next slide. Audit observations. 1. Online subscription procured under direct retail purchase that is actually an internet or cloud computing service, contrary to the express exclusion. 2. Repeat order availed of beyond 6 months from the original contract's notice to proceed, without a documented special IRR-defined circumstance. 3. Repeat order quantity exceeding 25% of a specific item's original contract quantity, even where the contract's aggregate total stayed under that threshold. Next slide. Audit observations, continued. 4. Repeat order proceeding without post-qualification as prescribed in the original bidding documents. 5. Direct sales initiated more than once for the same non-CSEs within the 6-month window. 6. Direct sales contract amount or unit price exceeding what was offered to the original government agency. 7. Direct sales proceeding without the original agency's inspection, acceptance certification on file. Next slide. Audit observations, continued. 8. Direct retail purchase end-user delegation not documented, leaving no clear record of who was authorized to purchase on the procuring entity's behalf. Next slide. Part 11. Frequently asked questions. Coming up in this part, a frequently asked question. Next slide. Question. Can a repeat order be used for services, or only goods? Answer. Section 33 is expressly limited to goods. The procuring entity may procure goods from the previous winning bidder. Services are not covered by this specific mode. The answer above traces directly back to the citation shown on this slide. Next slide. Question. If the original contract in a direct sales scenario was itself amended after award, which price governs, the original award price or the amended price? Answer. Section 36(d) refers to the amount of the contract executed with the original government agency, and the same or lower unit price offered to the original government agency. The most defensible reading ties this to the actual, final contract terms as executed, including any properly approved amendments, since that is what the supplier actually delivered and was paid under. Refer back to the citation shown here for the exact source of this answer. Next slide. Question. Does direct retail purchase require the end user to be a specific rank or position? Answer. Section 35(m) does not specify a rank or position. It refers generally to end users delegated to procure, leaving the specific delegation structure to the procuring entity's own internal arrangement. The answer above traces directly back to the citation shown on this slide. Next slide. Part 12. Quick reference summary. Coming up in this part, a quick reference summary. Next slide. Quick reference summary. Direct retail purchase, Sec. 35(m), poll products, electronic charging devices, or one of 4 named online subscription categories. Not available at PSDBM, end-user delegated. Repeat order, Sec. 33. Replenishing goods from previous winning bidder. Price, timing, quantity conditions, A, C. Direct sales, Sec. 36. Piggybacking on another agency's completed, satisfactorily performed, competitively bid contract. 5. Cumulative conditions, A, E. Each entry in this table traces back to a specific provision, so confirm the exact wording before relying on it. Next slide. Part 13. This series, complete. Coming up in this part, this series, complete and closing note. Next slide. This series, complete. This file closes out the 5-file alternative modes of procurement series. File 1, Direct Acquisition, Section 32. File 2, the circular number 062026 family. Direct contracting, small value procurement, and 7 negotiated procurement modes. File 3, Negotiated procurement. Inclusive and sector-specific, NGO participation, community participation, SAGAP-SACA. File 4, Negotiated procurement, national security, international, and standalone arrangements. File 5, Retail convenience and remaining standalone modes, this file. Next slide. This